And welcome back to another edition of the Always Pressing PGA DFS podcast, a special podcast this week as we preview one of the greatest tournaments in all of golf, the Masters. And in order to do so, I'm joined by my two co-hosts as always. You can find them on Twitter at BPSnow11. Bucks, how we doing?
Dude, awesome. It's like a Masters week, man. How can you be bad?
Yep, I agree. It's pretty darn awesome regardless of the final outcome. And the other guy you can find on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods, Jesse. What's going on, man?
I'm doing well, man. Another Masters, the most anticipated Masters in a long time, so it should be a lot of fun.
Yeah, absolutely loaded Masters, especially with the way the year's been going. The constant trend we keep reiterating over and over again. It's just been great golf after great golf. Let's real quick recap the Houston Open, where the one and only Ian Poulter, he was, I think 51st in the world, so he didn't qualify, had to win the Houston Open, and does so in dramatic fashion. Bucks, and he takes on Poulter and the weekend in Houston.
Yeah, man. I said it. I don't know where I said it, but I he had to have sold his soul to the devil last year.
No doubt.
Like that dude went from not having a tour card to backdooring a tour card because of Brian Gay figuring out a stat correction to being invited to the Masters via every media outlet on the planet, and then getting told that was wrong and have to win last week and drains a 20-foot snake on the last, and then cursed Bo Hostler on the second playoff hole. So
yeah, I saw before he hit that 20-footer, he didn't have a putt over 7.5 feet the entire day. Yeah. It's wild. Jesse, what were your thoughts on the weekend?
Yeah, I mean, I actually have a better explanation for it, that win anyways. I texted you, actually, I think, Bubba, and was bitching about the fact after day one that I chose Ian Poulter over Keith Mitchell.
Yes, you were. That's right. You were complaining about that.
I was so tilted because Mitchell starts 4, 5, 6, 7 under, whatever he started, and Poulter was 2 over. It didn't end up mattering on my team because I only had 3 out of 6 through the cut, especially after the MDF. I had 4, then 3. But yeah, that was pretty incredible. I missed all of Sunday. I was out doing family stuff. But that putt he made, man. I mean, he walked that putt in when it just left his putter. Pretty incredible putt there. But yeah, to battle back from 2 over and finish. What did he finish at 19?
19 under, yeah.
He just had an incredible 3-day stretch there. And where he came out of, I don't know, because he said he had his bags packed after Thursday and was ready to go to the house, and apparently got a pep talk and then went bogey free for a bunch of holes in a row. It was pretty insane, really. I mean, I don't know. Crazy.
It's that kind of stuff you can only make up in Hollywood. It seems like the whole Ian Poulter story, Bucks. You kind of went through it all. It's insane, and almost out of it after Thursday. Every time you think his back's against the wall, he sits there and pulls it out. And a lot of people don't like Poulter, and I get it. But in this day and age where everyone's so friendly, I kind of like the villain aspect of Ian Poulter. It's kind of a different angle. He's sitting up there chest pumping and having fun, and it's a gift we're going to see when we search golf forever, that celebration he had. There's something fun about it. I get how he rubs people the wrong way, but it's kind of fun.
He's a competitor, man.
Oh, yeah, and that's what I like about him. He grinds and grinds and grinds, and it's like you could tell how personally he takes every little thing. So it's good to see. And the scary part is now that he's playing well, we'll probably see him in Paris this year. And we've already talked about how good he is in match play. So
yeah,
that's kind of terrifying. Last thing, just kind of a quick round top. You had Spieth, looked really, really good. He was contending for a while. Kuchar did well. A lot of guys playing good golf. Rose and Mickelson almost missed the cut after the MDF, and then they played well on Sunday. Kind of a mixed bag there. But as a whole, any final thoughts on the Houston Open, Bucks?
Yeah, I think so. I watched a bit of it, and I was mainly focused on how the guys were coming into the greens with their wedges, with their short irons, mid irons, seeing how they controlled the ball once it hit the greens. Because you could tell there were a lot of guys out there that were playing shots in prep for Augusta. And Spieth was the main guy I wanted to watch because typically Spieth hits the ball amazing. and typically he putts pretty well as well. But Spieth has been atrocious earlier this year with his wedge game, and that was very uncharacteristic for him. And so he started hitting his wedges, his short irons, mid irons a lot better late this weekend, which kind of eased some concerns I had over rostering him in the Masters.
No, most definitely. It's the way we'll get into ownership at the moment, and there's a reason why he's so popular right now. Jesse, any final thoughts about the Houston Open?
It was a great cut sweat. That was a hell of a cut sweat.
Man, it was insane.
On Friday night, it looked like 3 was dead for a long time, and then somehow it came all the way back, and then it took 2 guys basically bogeying their last hole to even get 3 through. And the other thing is Luke List finally went back to Luke List putting on Sunday. He lost 4.5 strokes putting. I think I read where he missed like 5 putts inside of 6 feet or 5 putts inside of 5 feet or something like that on Sunday. So, yeah. But, overall, that was a fun tournament to watch. A lot of birdies. Golf course looked pure. So,
yeah, it was definitely good. A lot of good names, young and old, around the leaderboards like we like to see week in and week out on the tour. Let's talk a little fan share, what they have going on for the Masters week. They're locked and loaded on their coverage. Jesse, why don't you give us a little most tags at the moment?
Yeah, currently top 10 most tags. It goes Spieth, Rose, Woods, Watson, DJ, Rory, JT, Garcia, Mickelson, and Casey. I think it's pretty standard from what I've seen so far, and I expect those guys to be probably top 10 ownership. As far as start calls go, though, there's a distinction on FanShare where you can choose to start a person or sit them. So, say I'm going to play this guy or don't play this guy or whatever. So, top 5 is in order is Rose, Spieth, JT, Casey, and Bubba. So that could be your early chalk. I can really see Casey being super high owned, and all the buzz I've seen about Justin Rose so far too. I could see those 2 being the 2 top owned so far, up top. And then I guess we'll kick it back over to you for some further in-depth analysis there.
Yeah, they sent over the just for kind of reference, because you mentioned the top 10 tagged right now in the start calls. So the top 10 tagged and their results going in from 16 and 17. You had Spieth. He finished 6th overall. He was 10th in tags. You had Danny Willett, Westwood, Casey, Holmes, DJ, Rory, Hideki, Justin Rose, and Usti. Those are your top 10 in DK points that week. And then when you look at 17, it went Sergio, Rose, Kuchar, Thomas, Schwartzel, Casey, Kamer, Chappie, Koepka, and Scott. And one thing to kind of gain out of this last year, Justin Rose was one of the higher tag guys with 35 tags. But you had Thomas Peters had 9 tags, Schwartzel had 5, Keimer 5, Chappie 3. So a lot of kind of short guys. And you look back in 16, Danny Willett, who won the Masters, only had 2 tags. Lee Westwood didn't have any. Paul Casey 3, Holmes 3. So there's kind of a mixture. Honestly, in 2016 there was Spieth had 10, McIlroy had 12, and Rose had 10. Really nobody chalky in 16 for the most part. In 17, you had Rose, Sergio, and Casey were rather chalky. So they kind of want to let you know that there's your usuals, and then there's definitely a lot of room for some guys that aren't too popular, and hopefully we'll cover some of those guys as we debate. A couple things they wanted to mention is they released 2 upgrades to their site this week for the users. They upgraded the player profile pages with more historical DK money and ownership trends from way back, so it'll help you kind of see where it's been going on each individual player. And it also, when you get your lineups and build your lineups, so you have a export in the CSV, which will help you upload to DraftKings. So definitely something you can check out there. And one last thing they wanted to mention, ownership-wise, it's very important this week, especially for the Millie Maker. They did a Twitter poll, and 42 of response voted it as being it's being the bearing weight of their lineup building the Millie Maker. So, they have 130 votes. It's a decent amount, and 42% felt ownership and leverage will be their biggest deciding factors in building their lineups. So it kind of gives you an idea when you're going to build your lineups, what people are looking at. Before we get off the other categories here with course history, current form, key stats, Bucks, out of those 4 things, what's most important to you when you're building lineups this week?
Most important to me is going to be current form, but at this place, course history is huge.
Yeah. And course history was second at 29%, current form 20. Jesse, out of those 4 things, what are you looking at the most? Just those 4 things.
Yeah, I mean, for me, like, and I actually voted in that poll, and I voted ownership and leverage because the field is so small. I think that, trying to get a little bit different, finding your guy who's, lower than 10% owned, like Thomas Peters last year, can help you win, obviously, a lot of money on the week if you can get the other 5 correct. Did I hear you say when you were back talking about 2016, 2017 that Spieth only had, I guess in 2016, Spieth had 10 tags?
Yeah, on the 2016 list, he obviously had the most, or he had more points than Danny Willett. He had 101, Willett at 93.5, but he had 10 tags.
I mean, just talk about how much this industry's grown since in 2 years. I mean, he's at 60 right now, and you're probably at what, like half the stuff is out at this point. So, I mean, that's some major growth in DFS golf.
Yeah, it's pretty crazy to think about it. Let's get into the important stuff, what everybody's here to listen to, the Masters. And, it's the 82nd Masters, 87 golfers, so an extremely small field. The top 50 plus ties. Excited about the Masters right there. Top 50 in ties plus within 10 strokes make the cut. So in all reality, we could have 70. We can get almost everybody make the cut if it works out that way. Jesse, give us some past event history.
Yeah, that's one thing I was going to notice. I mean, was going to say, I'm glad you said that because I think that's really important. How many do we have starting? Was there like 89, 80, 84, 85, something like that starting? So, I mean, the cut's going to be – it could be a significant amount. Depends on if somebody runs away with it. But either way, it should be top 50 at the worst. So last year, if you guys all remember, Sergio Garcia beat Justin Rose in a playoff. Year before that was the Jordan Spieth collapse on number 12 where he took a 7. I rewatched that. It's still as painful today as it was then. It was kind of a high scoring event. That 5 under won it in 2016 when Willett won there. I think there was a lot of weather, wind that week. Jordan Spieth won in 2015 at 18 under, which is the record for the 4 days. He beat Phil and Justin Rose that year by 4 shots. Before that, you got Bubba, Adam Scott, Bubba, Charles Schwartzel, Phil, and some guy named Tiger Woods has won this 5 times, but he hasn't won it since 2005.
Wow, then he sucks. Hey, Bucks, give us one of your wonderful course previews here.
Yeah, I mean, this is the course, man. I mean, it's a one of a kind. This is like everybody's bucket list course, man. But Augusta is incredibly rare, I guess, because you have a course that if you looked at on paper, you'd see generous fairways. You'd see really moderate to short rough, and you'd expect these caliber of guys to just eat this place up. But once you get to your second shot, to your approach into the green, to around the greens, that's when all hell can break loose because you have so many undulations around the greens, on the greens, that you really have to play your second shots to certain portions of the greens. You have to control your spin into the greens. You have to try. I mean, a lot of these players have the ability to, and they do. They try to spin it certain directions once it hits the green. And so it's truly probably, in my mind, one of the toughest yet fairest tests of golf when they get the course playing the way it has the last few years. It rewards phenomenal play, and it eats people alive that are not playing well. So you have to kind of balance overpowering the golf course and having a really incredible touch and finesse into and around the greens. All of the greens typically run at over 13 on the stent meter, so incredibly fast. But again, it's all about positioning off the tee, positioning coming into the greens. I could definitely go hole by hole, but I'm not going to. There's plenty of resources out there that you can go hole by hole and look it out, especially like masters.com. But the one thing that if you've never been to the Masters, that it is pretty jarring is how steep some of these elevations are. So it really is a very hilly golf course. And it's a very rare occasion you have a flat lie in the fairway. So you're playing a lot of these side hill, uphill, downhill lies. And again, trying to flight your ball into the greens and control the spin. But overall, this is just like the dream golf course. And it's the most immaculately kept course on the planet. It's just unbelievable. So really, really excited to watch this week. And I'll be there for a couple of days, so I'm excited to check it out live.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. You get to be there this year. Jesse went last year, so I'm extremely jealous of my two co-hosts. I might have to stop hosting this podcast anymore. I'm kidding. I'm kidding. But the part I'm really glad you mentioned there is like the wear and tear of walking that course. I've listened to a couple No Laying Up podcasts where they had different caddies on and a couple other shows. And they mentioned that the caddies felt said this is like the second most grueling course they walk week in and week out. This is a lot. It's not as, nice and, pretty as it looks on TV. So there is a definite grind on some of these guys. So it's definitely something to keep in mind because I can't remember which tournament. I think it was in Hawaii or something. The elevation changes and the heat we talked about, it wears on these guys. So that's a very, very good point there. The weather this week, I took this one because it's easy. It's supposed to maybe rain a little on Wednesday, it looks like, but Thursday, Friday, not too bad. High 60s to mid 70s, depending on time of day, light winds. And they said maybe a chance of rain on the weekends, but by then your players are there and it is what it is. So from what I could tell, nothing major unless you guys have something different there.
Nope, that's about it. One thing you have to remember, even if they do get rain, they have sub-air systems in the greens that they'll dry it out and take care of it, that kind of thing. So rain will affect kind of how long it plays, but coming into the greens, it probably won't matter.
No, great point there. Let's get into the key stats. Jesse, what key stats are you looking at this week?
This week, big time greens and regulation. Looking at a lot more recent form than long-term form. So greens and regulation, scrambling, I think is a key stat, birdie or better, and then a lot of course history. I mean, I've heard it already a lot this week where people are, concentrating on course history, and I think it matters walking around here. This is one of those golf courses where you've got to know where to miss it, but also just in general where to hit it. Because if you go back, one of the awesome things about YouTube is and the Masters in general is they put all the final rounds on YouTube for like ever. I don't know how far it goes back, but if you go and you watch some of those final rounds, like guys are hitting balls and they're hitting in the almost perfect spot where it spins right back to the hole. And it's just it's why it makes it a little bit more difficult for first timers because you got to know where to miss it, but also just in general, like where to try to hit it to, because you can't always go right at these flags.
Yeah.
What about you, Jess? What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, a lot of what Jesse said. I mean, like I mentioned in that write-up, I mean, this is a second shot golf course for sure. It's very, very generous off the tee. So coming into the green, you have to be on your A game with your approach shots. And then if you do miss a green, you have to have some incredible touch. Just to give you some breakdown, though, of what I think is important and why, you have 10 par fours, 4 par fives, 4 par threes. Those 4 par fives, and this is just last year, those 4 par fives accounted for 46% of the DK scoring. So for me, par 5 scoring is going to be a massive stat for my model. And with a focus on the par 5 scoring, but also a focus on your approach game coming into the greens at certain yardages. So this golf course, the par 4s are fairly long. They average at 450 yards. And so your second shot in is typically going to be 160, 170, 180, something like that. And that's not really, once you get to like 175, 180, that's not really the scoring range. So you're really going to have 5 or 6 holes on the day where you should have kind of like a 9-iron wedge in hand. And those are the holes you have to take advantage of to score well here. And that's why par 5 scoring is so important, because most of them are reachable, if not all of them, for all of these guys pretty much. But a lot of these guys, if they don't hit a really good ball off the tee, they're laying up to specific yardages with their wedges to control that spin into the greens. So that makes it really, really important to have a focus on your approach shot. So strokes gained approach is really important for me. Par 5 scoring, scrambling is really, really important to me. Anything that has to do with the second shot into the green really is what I'm focusing on. That and par 5 scoring.
Yeah, I agree with everything you guys said there. I'm looking at a little bit of all that, especially that par 5 scoring part. Can't remember who tweeted it out today, but the last 2 years, like 3 or 4 guys in the top 5 literally scored all of their birdies or whatever they finished under par was thanks to the par 5s, essentially. So, like I was reading somewhere, if you get a par on these par 4s, it's almost like getting a birdie. Score on the par 5s, you're good to go. So there's a lot to be said about everything you guys had to say there. With that being said, let's get into the DraftKings action here, where we have 5 guys 10K or above. We have Dustin Johnson at 11.4. Hopefully he doesn't slip and fall this year. We got Justin Thomas at 10.8, Spieth at 10.4, and Tiger Woods all the way up to $10,000. Jesse, where are you going to be going up top?
I'm going to probably play a lot of lineups this week. The Millie Maker is not necessarily the best place to put your money, but it's so much fun to play. So I'll probably have, a piece of everybody above probably 9,000. With that being said, like my favorite play above 10 is Justin Thomas. I think there's a couple of angles on him. His course history isn't that great. He's finished 22nd and 39th here the last 2 years, but he's never played this good a golf for this long in his life. So starting, back with the PGA Championship, the last major, he's the winner. He's won 1, 2, 3 times since then. There's another couple seconds in there. I mean, just playing immaculate golf, and it just seems to me like it's his tournament to kind of lose at this point. And so I'll probably have a lot of lineups with JT in there. It's hard to completely fade DJ, but he's kind of got some weird form coming in, so I'm not 100% about him. I don't know about Spieth and whether or not he'll be chalky or not, because if he's not a chalky guy, I would definitely like to have Spieth, but I don't know. And Tiger, man, I mean, it's hard to argue against him in any route except for his Sunday form. I mean, that's really the only drawback I see, but his short game is still good, and he knows his golf course like the back of his hand.
Okay. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, you can make a case for any of these guys for sure. And I echo a lot of what Jesse said about Justin Thomas and that kind of thing. Like I said, I watched a lot of this Sunday looking at Spieth just because I wanted to see how he was controlling his wedges, and it looked a lot better. And so I think for me, depending on the tournaments you play, it comes down a little bit to ownership if you're trying to choose between 1 or 2 guys. But for me, if I'm looking at Spieth or Thomas, I'm likely moving to Spieth at a similar ownership, I guess. But course history is just unreal, like phenomenal. and he seems to be rounding into form at the right time. Justin Thomas, you can't argue with the way he's playing, but Spieth looks to be kind of like peaking. That being said, I do like Tiger. I mean, I've been a Tiger fan forever. We've talked about this. And so, I mean, even Tiger coming back a few years ago, I think in 2010, 2010, he came back and finished, I think, 4th after like literally not playing for months. And so he knows this course. He knows how to get around this course. He knows how to manipulate his game to get around this course without too many errors. And the biggest thing that I think has improved from Tiger's perspective from last year to this year is the short game. And so his ball striking is phenomenal. His short game is phenomenal. And that's literally the 2 biggest keys to this golf course. So I love Tiger.
Yeah, like you guys said, there's valid cases for every guy up here. I'm not sure if I'll even be up here much because I'm not going all in. I've been very disciplined this year of keeping it small, and it worked out well again last week. So I do like Justin Thomas a lot up here. It's kind of the hottest guy on the planet coming in. It's how DJ was last year. Every year it seems to be that guy. That's how Spieth was one of the best ones at his time. You know, he won the Players. He won the Honda. He's playing good at the courses you need to play good at. So there's a lot I like about Justin Thomas. And par 5 scoring outside of DJ, he's second best in the field. His short game, strokes gained approach, he's 5th best in the field. His scrambling's 14th best in the field. There's a ton to like about Justin Thomas, and I like him at 10-8. I think a lot will be on Spieth, and that's why I do kind of like paying up for Thomas. I think Tiger's going to be very, very popular. But like you guys said, you can make cases for all these guys. I don't hate them at all. I do like Thomas. Out of these 4, according to FanShare at the moment, he's the 4th lowest tagged out of the 4. So give me Justin Thomas above 10,000, and I will go from there. But once we go a little farther down, I'll explain where I'll be focusing my attention. Let's talk the 9,000s. You got McIlroy, Day, Mickelson, Rahm, Rose, Fowler. I love this pricing, by the way, because it feels like we're playing the Tournament of Champions again when we get farther and farther down these lists. Bucks, what do you got in the 9K?
Yeah, I mean, this range is freaking loaded, man. Again, I mean, you can make a case for any of these guys really being in the 10K range as well. But some of my favorite plays here, my number 1 favorite play in this range is Phil Mickelson. I think this course plays to his strengths and helps his weaknesses. He has been a lot better off the tee this year, but historically he's been mediocre at best. And while he likes to try to work the ball right to left, he's not a huge fan of doing so. He typically likes to play that left to right lefty draw. But with that being said, his approach game, his short game, his scrambling and putting have been freaking phenomenal this year. And then when you look at his par 5 scoring, he's top 15. And so what's really interesting to me, which is super un-Phil like, over the last 24 rounds, he is number 1 in bogey avoidance. So if you give me Phil, who's hitting his driver better, who is hitting a ton of greens, but he is getting up and down from everywhere, that's the Phil I want on this golf course at this event.
No, I like that a lot. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, Phil, it's hard to argue against Phil. I like Phil because he's hitting a lot of greens. I mean, he's hit 70, almost 73% of his greens in regulation. So his approach game is on point. From an ownership perspective, I think there's a couple options right here. I don't really have much for Rory. I think he'll be probably more popular than really what he should be. But either way, I'm not a big fan this week. I think Day and Rahm potentially could be the ownership kind of pivots in this region. And the reason being is Phil will be popular, and obviously Justin Rose will be popular. And Justin has a lot going for him, 2nd, 10th, 2nd, 14th in his last 4 starts here. And he just is a top 10 machine, or has been until this past week where of course, I played him, and I guess I just completely mushed him. I mean, that's no explanation for it, right? Like, I love Justin Rose, or I loved Justin Rose last week, and he finishes 52nd. So, but he's getting touted so much, and the pricing is so soft here. It's very easy to fit basically and do whatever you want to. I mean, there's not a whole lot you can't do with this, but Rahm last year was like 30% owned here at Augusta on DraftKings, but he had a lot better form coming in 10th, 3rd, and 5th with a win. And then this year he does have a win at the Career Builder, but that's 3 months ago almost. And his form is not as good. So I think him and Day kind of present some pivots there, and those would be my 2 favorite plays in this region.
Yeah, I'm not going to go into the Rose thing. You guys all pretty much hit on it. I agree with all the love. I just can't get on that bandwagon when there's going to be that popular. I just can't do it. Everywhere you turn, it's Rose, Rose, Rose. But I do like Jason Day. When you mentioned Day and Rahm, Day's the 16th tagged guy. Rahm's 13th right now, so definitely a little bit away from the norm. Day at $9,800. I do like him quite a bit at this tournament. The guy I do like the most in this range, and Bucks hit on him a lot, is Phil Mickelson. This is a guy that he's back. He's playing really, really good golf. He's basically a top 20 machine, top 10 machine. He has 15 top 10 finishes at Augusta and 25 starts. So, because you mentioned his scrambling. This course, I don't know if we've actually said it officially on this. It's a lefties course. The shot shaping ability for lefties. They've mentioned it everywhere else you listen to. And Mickelson obviously does that well. And you said it, Bucks, when they were in Houston, these guys are trying to get ready for the Masters by hitting shots you don't usually hit. And Mickelson does that to a T. And at $9,500, this is the guy I can see getting you in range, getting you the value you need at that position. So I don't mind Phil at all at $9,500. That's saying a lot coming from a guy all last year that wanted nothing to do with Phil Mickelson. And I've been on him a lot this year already. So I'm a believer in Phil. Let's go to the 8K range, where this is just Jesse's wet dream. Casey, Watson, Garcia, Fleetwood, Matsuyama, Peters, Leishman, Noren, Scott. Heck, outside of Bubba Watson, it's the Euro Tour. I'm gonna kick us off here in the 8K, and then I'll let Jesse explain his feelings on this. But he's extremely chalky at the moment, at least according to the people you listen to. But he's only 10th in tags. Paul Casey at $800. It's very hard to pass it up for me. A 6th, a T4, a T6 his last 3 times at Augusta, and he's been playing great overall. Period. He finally, got to the winner's circles 2 tournaments ago. Everything you got to love about Paul Casey. The defending champ Sergio is $8,600, and he's coming in with a 9th, a 4th, and a 7th his last 3 tournaments. So talk about recent form, and then he knows the course well. At $8,600, that's a steal. Fleetwood is the interesting one at $8,500. I do like him quite a bit. He's kind of been up and down form wise, but he's about a top 20-ish type guy, and missing the cut last year might make a lot of people angry. When you talk about a guy that has his irons locked in, he's one of the best on tour when he's playing well with his irons. So I like Fleetwood a lot at $8,500. I think he's going to go well overlooked, and that's what I'm hoping for as we get going. And then Alex Noren, he missed the cut here last year in his first time. But talk about recent form. This guy is locked in, a 3rd his last time out. He's been a top 15 machine basically 4 of his last 5 events. I was kind of speculating before we started the 9Ks on what I'm kind of looking to on build-wise here. I haven't built lineups yet, but when I was planning the guys I like today, I'm about to start trying an all 8K and around that team because I absolutely love these guys, and I think they're all good shots of winning the tournament. So Casey, Garcia, Fleetwood, and Noren are the 4 I'll be looking at in this range. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I mean, it's very easy to look at this region and be like, there's a lot of top 5 potential here, which is what you need out of this region in order to win a lot of money this weekend. So obviously, Paul Casey. I don't think there's been a Masters yet where I haven't played him, so that's 2. So this would be the 3rd, and I can see him being on like 75-80% of my teams at $8,800 now. I think he'll probably be, in higher dollar ranges. I think he'll be 40%. In the milli, he may be around 25 to 30%. But I'm fine with that. I'll eat that chalk and basically just try to get different other places. I do like Bubba this week excellent form, won twice this year. So I'll have plenty of him. I'm on the Noren train. Obviously, the new PC, Tommy Fleetwood, who burned us last year, but this year he's on the redemption tour. So I do like him. I mean, I could see a lot of these guys in this region being really highly owned. Another guy I'll mention is Adam Scott. I mean, previous winner here. Is the putter going to show up? I don't know, but he did finish 9th here last year, and he wasn't putting good last year. So, there's some potential there. Hitting a lot of greens in regulation as usual. Just he's got the iron game. So I think at 8,000, that's a decent price on him and a pretty good GPP play.
Nice. What about you, Bucks?
Yeah, I mean, you guys touched on pretty much everybody. My favorite plays in this range, unsurprisingly, Paul Casey hasn't finished here worse than 6th last 3 years. So the guy's a top 10 machine outside of the Masters. So his game suits this course. He's just been playing phenomenal lately as well. Bubba Watson is a guy that I really like this week. What's interesting about Bubba is he has been playing really, really well. He's been winning and contending, and he hasn't been taking advantage of the par fives. He has really been relying on not making huge mistakes like he used to. He's been relying on his approach game, which has been really good of late, which is what he really struggled with last year. So when you mix his strength, which is driving the golf ball, with him coming into the greens, I really do think that Bubba has a chance to contend and give it another run this year. I think he has the fit for this course, and I think it just suits his eye. So I love Bubba. Fleetwood's another guy I love. Noren, another guy I love. Hideki, he is a guy I want to love. I just, for some reason, I just can't do it. Like, I think that he has the potential to be top couple guys in the world, but he just kind of loses it every now and then. And then touching on Adam Scott, dude is phenomenal with like an iron wedge in his hand, but holy God, like he's the last person on the planet I would roster this week just because I can't, like I'd have to close my eyes every time he's putting. Like,
well, I mean, I get that. I get that about Adam Scott, but like, it's not like he was putting any better last year. I mean, you got to think he finished 9th last year. So
it's just a scary thought. Adam Scott on Augusta Greens is scary.
He will tilt you to death, but it's hard to argue with. I mean, there's just something about when you step on Augusta National Golf Club, your mentality changes, and it's obvious with a few people: Jordan Spieth, Bubba Watson, probably Adam Scott, because I mean, he's just not played that well anywhere else, really.
And it's a place he just feels comfortable, like you said.
No, I definitely agree. It's a loaded region, and plus, Bubba's bringing a nice shoe game this week. If anyone hasn't seen that yet, bringing the style to Augusta. So let's go to the 7K range, usually the most crowded range, and it is this week, but it's only like 29 guys, so really not that bad, all things considered. And this whole tournament's loaded. So Jesse, what do you like in this 7K range?
Yeah, from a course history perspective, there's several guys down here too. Louis Oosthuizen, he finished 41st last year. I thought he was played better than that, but at 7,900, he's interesting for a GPP play. Tyrell Hatton, I think somebody had mentioned, maybe one of you guys had mentioned him already, but either way, I'm a big fan this week. These green surfaces are so pure, like you can't get that mad at a green surface there, I don't think. So it's got to be good, right? I mean, you can't be, getting pissed off about a spike mark. He does have 2 third-place finishes in his last 4 starts with a miscut and a 69th, which is nice. And then other than that, Kuchar, it's hard to argue with him. I do think he will be chalky. One guy who they added in today, Ian Poulter at 7,600. The putter is just spitting hot fire right now. And, it's really, really hard to predict, obviously, whether or not somebody will putt well from week to week. But he's found something in that Medina putter that he brought out, and it's just been fire the last 2 weeks. So I do like Poulter a little bit. I think Harmon is interesting at 7,500. A few more. Hadwin at 7,200, hitting a lot of greens in regulation recently. I think Hoffman is interesting at 7,100. He raced out last year and was at like 3 or 4 shots ahead of the field, I do believe, after the first or second. I think he was the first round leader, but and he kind of faded back, but he's an all right play to me. Obviously, you guys know this. I mean, got to hashtag brand it, Pure Deck Appy Barn Rot. I mean, I don't even talk about him. He's another guy, steps on the grounds at Augusta, 2016, finishes 15th, wins me all kinds of money that year. I do think he will be a lot higher on this year than he was that year, but either way, I like him.
No, I like it. Bucks, what do you like in the 7K range?
Yeah, I mean, you got 29 guys, which is almost half the field here. So I do like – I mean, there are some really big names down here, and, like, I find myself gravitating towards the guys I've been on all year. So Henrik Stenson is a guy that has a terrible course history for the most part, but just one of those guys that I really feel he's rounding in the form at the right time. I think that missed cut last year will sway some people, but when you got Henrik Stenson at $7,800, that's pretty remarkable. Patrick Cantlay is another guy that I really like this week. He drives the ball well. He controls his second shots really well, and he scores like crazy on par 5. So I do like Cantlay. Brian Harmon is a guy I've been on all year long. I love his fit for this golf course. He is a grinder, and he's been putting well. So I think he was in much better form earlier in the year, but I still like the way he's been playing. My guy that this is no shock to you guys, but Webb Simpson is probably my top play here in the 7K range. I mean, so for just the stat I focused on, he is in the top 10 in scrambling, putting, par 5 performance, and strokes gained around the greens. And then he's 14th in bogey avoidance and 20th in approach. So I really like his form coming in. I like the way his stats line up as well. I think the one thing that I obviously am not a huge fan of is his course history. Out of the last 5 years, he has 3 cuts here, and then a couple of top 30s, but really nothing great. And I hope that keeps some people off of him because I really do like the way he's playing right now. And then 2 other guys I'll mention. Jesse already mentioned Adam Hadwin. Love his game here. The dude is just fire with his irons, his wedges around the greens. If he can score on the par 5s this week, he's going to contend. I love Adam Hadwin this week. Yeah. And then the last guy I'll mention, Zach Johnson. He is $7,000. He is really good in a lot of those key stats that I'm looking at. And, I mean, he does have a top 10 here, surrounded by 3 missed cuts, but he has played well here before. He will probably be one of my less owned guys, but I'm going to have a piece of him at 7K.
Yeah, you guys hit on most of them. Some that I'm going to have a lot of or deep looks into. Henrik Stenson, absolutely love the way he's playing. I've been on him pretty much every week since he's been over here. Back-to-back, really great showings, T6 and a 4th. I like him. Cantlay is very interesting to me, as we've been on him all year. Kuchar, I agree, Jesse's might be chalky, but at $7,600, that's some chalk I can definitely get behind. T4 here last year. He's been T10 3 the last 5 years, so a lot to like there. Daniel Berger, I was on him last week. He came out of nowhere after barely making the cut. Thank you, Cut Sweats. Finished T18, and he's 2 for 2 here, including a top 10 2 years ago. So I like that. Brian Harmon, Bucks, you nailed that one. I absolutely love what he's got going on of late. I think he's a completely different player than he was his first time here. So there's something to definitely look into on that one. Hadwin at 72. I do love him here. You hit ZJ. ZJ, I think we say it every week. He's so freaking low. He's been in the low 7s, even 6s a lot. 7K. Another guy that could be chalky, but you have to love it. And then the last guy I will mention, because I don't think you guys did, but if you can mention Webb Simpson, I can mention Francisco Molinari at $7,000. Who another, if you're just looking for a guy to make a cut, is way too damn cheap down here, and he's actually coming in great form, like T25 or better 2 of the last 3, basically T26 or better 3 straight events. Finished T33 here last year, so I do like Molinari quite a bit at 7K. Rounding out most of the 7K guys. There's a ton to choose from. Obviously, those are the ones I'll be focusing on the most. Let's jump into the 6K range. There's some really good golfers, and then there's a bunch of old-timers making their appearance again, including Fred Couples. Bucks, what are you liking in the 6K range?
There's actually quite a few guys down here that I do
like. There's a lot. That's why you can stars and scrubs. It's easy.
Yeah, so I think typically I'm only doing 3 lineups a week, and this week I'll probably end up doing like 5 to 10 because I love Kevin Chappell. Love Bryson DeChambeau. Love Pat Perez. I've been on Steele all year long. So those 4 guys alone, I really like. And Kevin Chappell's in my top 10, like in my model. Bryson is 13th. Kevin Chappell finished 7th last year, I believe, or something like that.
Yes, tied 7th.
DeChambeau again finished well. Pat Perez has good course history here. With the T18 last year. But a couple other guys that I do like. Bernd Weisberger. He is a guy that has shown some really high-quality game over the last year. He does like this golf course, and from a second-shot type golf course, this suits him. So I do like him at $6,800, and I think he'll be super low-owned. So I do like him a lot. The last guy that I'll mention down here, because outside of like under 6,800, there's not too many guys that I'm really a big fan of. But the one guy that I think could, I don't know about contend, but give it a go, is Longer. Dude's still balling out. And I think he has like 450 starts at Augusta, so he knows the course like the back of his hand. Just one of those flyers at $6,300 that lets you get super weird.
Mm-hmm. Definitely. Jesse, what are you liking down here?
Yeah, it's basic. Some of these prices are kind of weird. I mean, I do think there's some misprices as far as being underpriced. But there's, I guess, reasoning behind it or whatever. Chappell, I think, will be probably the highest owned below 7,000. Yeah, I can't believe you didn't mention Cam Smith.
Yeah, it shocked me. The Cherub.
I felt bad mentioning Webb and Cam.
We all hit the ball. Didn't mention Cam Smith. But I mean, Cam Smith, he's interesting. Finished 55th here in 2016. Didn't play last year. I think DeChambeau will be. I think DeChambeau will be the second highest owned guy down here, but he finished 21st in 2016, and he's coming off where he finished second, at the API Arnold Palmer Invitational. Fred Couples got great course history. Bernard Longer, he's probably the best senior player in here besides Fred Couples. And he's miscut 24th, miscut 8th. So, I mean, he's, if he makes the cut, he's finishing like top 25, which is more than what you need at 6,300. I don't mind the burn call. Duffner, Jimmy Walker. I mean, there's several down here that I think you can roster. It's just a matter of kind of finding the guy you like or whatever and plugging him in because this opens up a lot of salary. But I'd say DeChambeau and maybe some Steele as well.
Steele.
Yeah, these are all good. You know, Chappie, I do like a lot. He's like, his form's insane. I agree with you guys on DeChambeau, Pat Perez. You know, can play these courses pretty darn well. You got Steele, Duffner, absolutely love. It's pretty crazy when you look at the pricing. Chappie's 39th in the world, Perez 21st, Cam Smith 45th, Steele 40th, Duffner 49th, Stanley 44th. You even got Fratelli at 50. All these guys in the top 50 in the world are below $7,000. So, yeah, you have tons to work with here. That's why you can definitely do like a stars and scrubs approach and make it work if you choose. Well, we kind of mentioned a lot of 6K guys, but Bucks, if you had to have your top punts, give me 2 in the 6K that would lead the way.
2 in the 6K. I mean, I would have to go Chappell and Chappell and DeChambeau. I mean, they're like 1-2, but I'll go Chappell and Cam Smith.
Here we are. Jesse, what about you?
One guy I didn't mention before, but who's kind of interesting. My only issue with him is he's never played here before. Is Austin Cook, but he's got some decent form coming in 16th and 11th in his last 2 starts. I'm sorry, 36th and 40th in his last 2 starts. It's quite a bit different. But anyways, made 3 straight cuts on tours. Obviously, 1 to get in the field. So he's kind of interesting to me at 67, big salary saver there. And then my other punt would be Steele.
My 2 punts would be Chappie and Duff Daddy. With that putter working the way he has, he's already played well here in the past. But now if he can actually putt here, it could be really impressive. So those would be my 2. Who's your bust? Since there's so many good guys, let's say 9,000 or above bucks. Who's your bust?
Man, that's tough. Realistic bust, I would go Ricky Fowler, who I hope busts just because of my lineups is Justin Rose.
Yeah. What about you, Jesse?
Yeah, I would hope it's Rose too, because I'll be underweight on him most likely. But I mean, realistically, it's probably Tiger.
Yeah, I have Tiger. I don't want to see Tiger, but I got Tiger and Fowler as my bust up top. That's what I'm looking at as well. Bucks, who's your core this week?
What was that?
Who's your core this week?
I'm still like mind blown out for the Tiger bust. My core this week is going to be Phil, Bubba, and Webb Simpson.
I like that. What about you, Jesse?
PC, new PC, and Norin. So Paul Casey, Fleetwood, and Norin.
Wow, I almost had the same one. I had to cross Norin out. I have Casey, Fleetwood, and Kuchar. I'll differentiate from there, but I like that grouping right there.
Squeeze fade.
Yep, I'll take it. Real quick, before we pick our winners, I wanted to give some stats that I picked up through Twitter the last week that might help some people out. No first-timer has won here since 79, Fuzzy Zeller. Xander, Finau, Sharma, Patton Kizzire, Haotong Lee, Austin Cook, Wes Bryan, Yusaku, Grimm, Ellis, Redmond, Zinn, Parzielli are all newcomers this year. So keep that in mind. And an interesting one, if you want to get deep in your studying, the past 8 winners all made the cut in the last event they played. So they didn't miss the cut coming into this event. With that all being said, Bucks, who do you have winning the 2018 Masters?
It's gonna be Tiger.
Woo.
It's gonna be Tiger.
Oh my, Jesse, who you got?
Paul Casey.
I'm gonna preface this is I think I put JT, but if I'm gonna go with somebody else, I had Paul Casey as my second because I want someone with bigger odds. So
yes, I mean Tiger's down to 11-1, JT's 10-1. Paul Casey's 22-1.
That's why I took Casey at 22 outside of JT. I think Fleetwood's worth some money too. I saw him around the 40 to 45 range.
I bet him already too. I also bet Harmon. I bet a few. I got Cantlay a few months back too. So
I like that quite a bit.
Bubba, you want a couple fun stats?
Yeah, fire them off.
I saw their article on betfair.com. Really, really fun article. So 10 of the last 10 winners were under 40 years old. 9 of the last 10 winners have been ranked inside the top 30. 10 of the last 10 winners have played in at least one Masters. 9 of the last 10 have posted a top 30 in their lifetime at Augusta. 10 out of the last 10 have posted top 38 at Augusta. 10 of the last 10 made the cut the previous year at Augusta. 9 of the last 10 posted a top 10 in that same season. 10 out of 10 were not the defending champion, and 10 of 10 were not the world number 1.
Impressive. A lot of interesting stuff there.
DJ and Garcia be out then.
Yep.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And 8 of the last 10 have posted a top 20 in their lifetime at Augusta.
Wow. Paul Casey, let's go.
The mold. You fit the mold.
So this article goes through all of these stats like that, and basically it comes out to 2 players that have
I think I saw this one now. I'm going to be disappointed by one of them, I think.
Ricky and Leishman.
Yeah, I remember Ricky being – yeah.
Really?
Yep.
It's a good article. You should check it out. Like, Bucks just gave you the cliff notes of what they are. It's good stuff.
I'll tweet it out. It's a really cool article.
Yeah, I remember it now. Once you started reading out some of those stats, I'm like, I think I read this one a week or so ago. It's a good one.
Yeah.
All right, gentlemen. Enjoy the Masters, everybody. Check it out. This is one of the few times a year it's great to own DirecTV. They have amazing coverage of the Masters. But until then, check out Bucks on Twitter at BPSnow11 and his coverage of the Masters while he's there in the next few days. You got Jesse on Twitter at DFS Golf Gods, rocking his Masters t-shirt, it looks like. And I'll be on Twitter at BDintric. Check out the podcast, Always Press DFS. This was your 2018 Masters preview. Check you guys next time.